America. I got my microwave going off, make some oatmeal, a couple hours removed from the 76ers game. Just a little bit of background. I've been kind of rocking with the 76ers since, I would say, since the year where Dario and Joel got off, 2015, 16, I believe that was. Um, I don't know why I picked the 76ers. I really liked Joel's trolling antics, I think, a lot. Um, I also liked watching Dario Saric. I was a pretty big fan of Dario, honestly. I thought that he would be not necessarily a cornerstone, but like one of those really good, like he's going to be here for a while and he helps us do things. Like a Patty Mills or like a better Matt Bonner. I probably shouldn't be have this water going while making this video. It's not the best production value. I said, let's say, just kind of preface kind of how much of this horse shit that I've seen to this point. That year, pretty much, I think they were kind of, I think even guys' house like a 10 seed or something like that before Joel got hurt and kind of got shut down. Saric and Joel, I think, finished second and third, respectively, in that Rookie of the Year voting. From there, you get to 2016-17, where that should be, unless my timeline's fucked up, that would have been the first year Ben came, and then he got hurt the first year, and he was outie, and I don't think they really accomplished much that year. I actually don't remember anything about that year. I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember anything about that year. I'm just trying to make sure that's not the year I'm thinking about with the whole Joel and that could be the first year because the Rookie of the Year season, that's 2017-18 for Simmons, and that's the year where they are. I think they were the one seed that year. They do the whole like 20 straight wins or whatever the fuck. I think 13 straight wins with Simmons is the lead. Basically the lead player of the team. And they get bounced by Boston, I think, in that season. I don't really have to revisit all of my fandom. I guess I kind of just wanted to get that preface there. So fast forward to this season where pretty much I think there's a malaise kind of with the entire fandom about like the regular season. Because like outside of Joel being Joel, which even that was like, I really don't expect for Joel to get the MVP because he's been doing this shit for like basically 2 straight years at an increasingly improved rate over those 2 years, but pretty much 2 straight years, and he's gotten boned 2 straight years. I don't think it felt real for the 76ers brass who wanted some kind of sense of accomplishment up until pretty much they knocked the fuck out of, Jokic in that, I think it was a Christmas game, I believe. The rivalry week, whichever that, I forgot what that was. I think it was February, actually. But that's where it felt real, And I think that the playoff contention aspect didn't really feel real until you kind of like look up and you see Harden kind of hooping up until that, I forgot, was it an Achilles injury, I think it was, that he had suffered kind of around February, March. And then you had the Maxey kind of going off, which, again, not too unfamiliar prospect, but him going off when James and Joel were kind of both in and out, or I guess both hurt, He was kind of keeping it level. Again, not a novel concept, but it just felt like right? Like if all these things came together, Melton doing his thing as a kind of a secondary, guard or tertiary guard in some instances. Tobias looking decent at points in time. Just all these things that could work potentially, and then you get the things break the way they do. We end up with the Nets instead of like Miami Heat, right? Who could have easily been in that net spot. And then you get a situation where the Bucks are out, which I think the Bucks are a better matchup than the Celtics ever were for the Sixers. And you kind of sit there and wonder, like, it's a pretty dead West, I feel like, relatively speaking. Like, there's nobody that's way better than the 76ers, at least regular season Sixers, in the West. So you're like, okay, these things really seem to work in our favor. Unfortunately, though, you get the Celtics. It's like, wow. Again, wow, this is the fucking Celtics. but I think every Sixers fan at this point, modern ones especially, are like, fuck this goddamn Celtics. Again and again and again and again. But even then, you just got flashes of something competitive in some of those Celtics games. I mean, you lost one because Jason hit a fucking ridiculous, 3-pointer, running 3-pointer that probably some real lack of ball IQ and not stopping the ball before he kind of got running head of steam. But then you almost tied that game if Joel got a shot off like maybe 2 seconds earlier, You won where Joel scored 50. I know that's invalidated by Joel having to score 50, but Joel went off against, kind of the Al Rob gridlock a couple times early in the season. So it's like these things that felt like, they almost were, I don't know, like fits against this team. You kind of sit there and wonder, and Missoula is a way worse coach, even to this point, right, this very moment, than Ime Udoka was. So it's like, could this shit possibly come together? Nope. Nope. I had system as a preface to tell you, nope, it's not coming together. It's cooked. And it's cooked in ways that feel familiar and in new ways. Because I would contend that this 76ers team is more equipped to at least battle with the Celtics than they ever were before. I thought that the Celtics were always deeper in these matchups in the 76ers. And I didn't know if that was always predicated on the fact that, like, you had to have these weird roster constructions around both Simmons and Joel together. I didn't know if it's because the Celtics always seem to just have more, like, kind of almost star-level guys outside of maybe the 1 year where, the 76ers were decidedly better. The Joel, not Feds, that's the Saric, and I forgot what name they used for Joel, Jimmy, Simmons, and fucking Tobias. Whatever that one was. I think it was Best, right? BEST. Am I getting that one right? What's BSST? That was, I'm not going to go through all this. Was that Ben? No, fuck it. I don't know. Why am I doing this? They had some nickname that wasn't Feds for the Joel, JJ, Jimmy, Ben, all that shit. And I can't remember what the fuck the nickname was for that one. No, Feds was Fultz. Who was the E? I'm trying to remember what the fuck the E was. Is it Urson? It couldn't be Urson. Who the fuck was the E? It wasn't Sarge was the D. Who was the E and S? Simmons, I guess, was the S, but who was the E? Joel is Embiid. That's what. Oh my God, fuck. Fultz, Embiid, Dario. I couldn't remember what the fuck the E was. But other than that year where they had the fucking 5-man lineup of fucking death, I pretty much think the Celtics have been the better lineup, best 5-man and sometimes even the better 5-man plus depth in all these recurring matchups. This was a year where I felt like, if you really think about it, I got this fucking goddamn oatmeal going. The thing about oatmeal that's pretty weird is that oatmeal, like, I don't think you can ever, like, instant oatmeal, like the microwave shit, I don't think you can ever get that shit completely right in the first, like, heat up. Because if you put it in too long, it's going to fucking, like, burn. And kind of, like, speaking about burning, Harden, it's AIDS. He just burns like fucking AIDS. I fucking hate watching him play. My point about star power. So you look at it and you have, your just equate here for a second. Tatum was top 5 in MVP. Joel was top 1 in MVP. So let's just say roughly equal out. Tatum is, I don't say a much better playoff performer, but like I think it's safe to say he's better. Maybe because he's seen more rounds, literally just seen more playoff games, I think, at this point. I think he has. Maybe he has. I think he has, though. He's definitely seen more rounds. I don't know if he's seen more games, but he's definitely seen more rounds than Joel. So you roughly equate those two. One's a better regular season performer, one's a better playoff performer. And then number twos, you have Brown, who was a better playoff performer last year, At least a definitely better finals performance, maybe a better playoff performance, period. Um, and you have James Harden, who was maybe the absolute worst playoff performer relative to their regular season success in my lifetime, and maybe period, maybe ever, because you can go into any reputable like national podcaster, and they pretty much have some episode around playoff time just regurgitating the failures of James Harden in the playoffs. I couldn't imagine being a James Harden fan, or stan, I guess I should say, because there's nothing redeeming about Harden outside of some of the OKC run, which I was damn near too young, really too young to remember any significant moments that were positive for Harden. I watched the fucking Metal World Peace elbow live. Which I think that was a playoff game, but don't remember too many playoff games from Harden, unfortunately, from OKC era. And then, I mean, as you go forward in the Houston era, I mean, it's just, fucking Lillard fucking on him. It's I think, 4-1 sweep against Golden State with the Dwight Howard year. It's fucking embarrassment, the kind of closeout. The Russell Westbrook, isolated on the 3-point line in the bubble, and everything in between. I mean, outside the Golden State, Western Conference Finals series, he doesn't have a single redeeming moment. I think, really, if you think about it in the finals, I mean, I can't think of anything. I mean, they lose the series because they basically play the most deviant version of fucking Maury Ball, and god damn, that was awful. 0-27. So on and so forth, man. He's just a fucking failure of a playoff player. And Brown is a playoff raiser, a floor raiser and a ceiling raiser. He's probably the best player to not have a particularly like good dribble. I don't know what to say ever. Obviously not ever, but like when you consider like Middleton he doesn't have like a crazy handle, but he has a more than functional handle. Get to his mid ranges, and that's really all that matters. You just get to your spot, which I guess Brown functionally does that, but like Brown does not have a good handle, and he does what he does. He gets to his little mid ranges, his clunky kind of brute strength back downs, and he gets his little fadeaways. He's a fucking demon in transition, even though he doesn't do anything flashy with his handle. He just is. He'll give you a little kind of a little crossover, maybe an occasional hezzy. I really would say a crossover. It's kind of just like he's going straight at you, but like, is it going to be slightly veer to the left, or slightly veer to the right, or just directly through your chest? And that little kind of, I don't know what he's going to do, little snight, like, oh, God, I don't know what's happening, but I'm probably eating a shoulder in my chest either way. That aspect to his game, no one can fucking stop that shit, dude. Like, his lack of finesse almost makes him a better playoff performer because of how ugly the playoffs can be. While Tatum is so finesse heavy sometimes that it kind of is what whittles his stock down in some of these matchups where it gets ugly. So yeah, I mean, I think I would take Brown easily over Harden in the playoffs. I mean, you can say that Brown's not like an assist man or whatever, but like sometimes you just gotta get a bucket, dude. And he's just so much better defender at this point. And for years, I would say that it's the overall value. I take Brown every time. And you go to the third options, and that's where it starts getting kind of ugly, I think, because the third options, no matter which one you pick for Philadelphia, is like flawed. It's just uppercase F. And this is where I think the series really has just kind of made itself, is that in game one, where you just eliminate Joel, and it's like, okay, everybody gets to just, I guess, be whatever they want to be in terms of who they are. Like, Melton gets to be, I can take whatever shots I want to take from the outside. These 3-pointers that sometimes seem a little bit too far out, but within Melton's range, he can just take them, and he made them. Basically kept the Sixers in the game in game one. Tobias gets to finally kind of work around the rim in ways that he doesn't get to when Joel's in, because it's just, priority. And it looked good, Maxey kind of just gets to ignore being a quote unquote point guard in frame, at least, and gets to just be the fucking reckless scorer. And it worked the best it's worked against Boston for him in I don't know how long. That doesn't mean that it was necessarily a great game, but it was the best he could do. And Harden used to just play fucking 5 out Harden ball, which is so non-conforming to being a number 2 option, but I digress. The point being, the third option in that game, no matter who you said it was, got to be close to what they want to be. While when Joel's in, the third option, either Maxey or Tobias, is just so compromised a player that you wonder how the roster ever got built the way it did. Like, I just don't know how we got to this point where you got to Tobias Harris. Like, the problem is that Tobias Harris made more sense as third option in comparison to Jimmy in relation to Ben Simmons and Joel. But the problem is Ben's such a fucking terrible, like, in terms of consistency as a second option, that your third option got to basically be both a second option sometimes and a third option, which Jimmy was never going to be like a consistent third option behind Ben. Maybe behind somebody else, but not Ben, right? Like, Jimmy can be, like, people think Jimmy's an asshole that just wants to be the ball dominant motherfucker. That's not what Jimmy wants to be. But Jimmy has to have a kind of a defined role of what needs to be done. The Jimmy that was needed in 2019 was a ball dominant shot taker. Because Simmons wasn't that, and Tobias wasn't that. Now we get to this point where Jimmy's a number 1 option, clearly, and Tobias is still a flawed third option. And fucking Tyrese, who's now the bucket getter, is flawed at that. Like, Maxey is such a fucking... I don't want to, like, shit on Maxey because he's like 21, right? Like, I mean, this dude is not where he needs to be at in terms of to call him a finished product. But when you look at what he doesn't do, it's like, I don't see where he's ever a third option or championship contender. Like, you think about Quickly, who is pretty much his, like, literal parallel in terms of just from the beginning to this point. I think Quickly had one more year at Kentucky than he did, but pretty much they're just equal paralleled individuals. Quickly is such a flawed offensive player that's very similar to Maxey, honestly, that you can't... The Knicks will see it at this point like, oh, shit, what we thought was there really isn't there, you know? And Quickly's year this year ain't really too much different than Maxey's year last year, you know? Like, I think Maxey had a real Sixth Man of the Year argument for a minute. It's pretty much the same thing with Quickly. Like, these are very similar players, except Quickly plays defense and can play defense. I think Tyrese tries to play defense, but he's terrible at it. I don't know if it's even he's a very slight 6-foot guy. He's strong for like a 6-foot guy, but he's slight at the same time. And there was a period of time where to be a slight yet kind of stout 6-foot guy would be fine for you for years, like 80s, 90s, fine to be the frame that Tyrese is. But in this game where you shouldn't be able to hide on anybody, I know Trae Young gets away with it sometimes, but when you are a bad defender, you're going to be attacked, and he's going to be attacked fucking forever. Like, it's just going to happen forever. He's never not going to be attacked in a playoff series. You can't hide Maxey. And in this series, in this system where you have a relatively slow-footed, but I think punches above his weight sometimes, Tobias Harris as a defender. You have Harden, who's abominable as a defender. It really sets the tone on how bad the transition defense is, because you pretty much can say your guards are going to be the first ones to run out. They're their backcourt. They're going to be the first ones to run out when it comes to transition. And when you have one of your two guards, literally your two guard, I guess he counts as a point guard, but I think your real two guard and Harden, nominally speaking, is that fucking bad. It just, I think it breaks apart everything else. Like we look at that game one, that was their small running transition lineup. Paul Reed at the five, PJ Tucker, Tobias, blah blah blah, and they still got fucking cooked in transition because Maxey's a fucking little dude out there, and Harden fucking stinks. I couldn't even get the fucking word out correctly. Now you have this system where it's Joel, who I think he runs pretty well for a 300-pound fucking 7'1" guy, but like he's susceptible to get fucking run past occasionally. Not really in the lines where you have Al Horford the five too often, but it can happen, right? Um, and it just kills you when you have Tyrese, who I think Tyrese's problem also is that he just is not a very smart defender. Like he's not a good point of attack defender, but he has some matches where he can succeed in that role. He also is not a good off ball defender, and he's not a particularly smart one either. I think sometimes what hurts him is that he tries to account for the fact that he's not a good defender and he knows he's going to be attacked. And then in doing that, sometimes he just makes a bad decision. This is going to on ball side of things, but there was a particular possession where he just got like a dumb foul trying to press up on a guy to try to like force a steal. And then he just got like a foul because like I think he was matched up against it was matched up against Tatum on one of the elbows, 3-point line elbows. And he just got in his fucking grill. It's like laying towards the game where he was getting cooked at this point for a whole game. He was like, I'm gonna just get in his chest and try to force a steal or some shit like that, right? I think he may even like got the ball knocked out at one time, but then he got cooked because it's just he's not like he's just a fucking he's literally like I think there's nobody who like epitomizes a like a good traffic cone more than Tyrese because Tyrese is active defensively. He just does not matter to the majority of offensive players. You can just shoot over him. You can shoot. You can get past him. Excuse me. He just doesn't matter defensively, and that's one of your third options. I'm not even gonna like. You've heard everything you need to hear about Tobias here to this point. Like he's there. Like he just fucking exists, right? Like he just happens to be on the fucking team. And Boston, dude, they just have unlimited third options. Brogdon's fucking nice. Horford's nice. Fucking Grant's can come in and get you. I would say Grant's more of like a sling of a fourth option, even when he's on. But like, he's a really good ass fourth option. Derek White was nice for the longest. He's kind of been iffy some offensively this series, but he's still like he's kind of nice. I mean, these dudes are all fucking clearing in terms of consistency are third options. And you just go down the line, like the bench, I think is where it kind of equates. Like I think PJ Tucker can do some nice things for you. I think Melton can do some nice things for you. I don't know why we can't use Paul Reed at all in times where Joel's doing his thing. I just don't. I understand that you have to try to get Joel on there because Joel's the only one who's really functioning as a consistent offensive threat today. But like, I mean, Paul Reed's like one of the best players on the fucking court in game one, dude. Like, you got to find a way to use that motherfucker. I mean, shit, dude. Like, we haven't had a backup center that we liked for so long, and now we have one. We can't even fucking use for more than like 5 minutes in the fucking game. I mean, oh my god. So why is this series over? I guess let me say this and get the fuck out of here because I'm gonna go for 23 minutes. It's no recipe for success other than the guys won't perform better has to perform better. Like you just need James Harden to be better than this. You just need Tyrese Maxey to be better than this. And if you've watched this trifecta in their few games, it's just not gonna fucking happen. Like Harden is going to give you one more good game in this 5-game gentleman's sweep, but it won't fucking matter because by that point, more than likely the series will have been over with. Like, I think Harden's gonna give you like some kind of like first half where he's like fucking 2 of 7, and then the back half where it's like a fucking 10-point game the whole way through. He's gonna give you like fucking I don't know like 4 of or 7. like a good like 6 of 14 type of game. Tyrese is probably gonna give you like one hard fought ass fucking like 5 of 13 type of game. Like that's just all it can give you, especially in this matchup. Tyrese just can't give you more than what he can give you in this matchup. He can't. He can only fucking shoot or drive. He can't do anything in the mid range that matters. That yeah, like he doesn't have like a stop and pop mid range shot. He has that floater that sometimes shows up, but I haven't seen. I don't know if I've seen one floater this whole series. Um, I mean, he has pretty much no involvement of value with Joel. Like, some of these, like, Joel pick and pops while Tyrese just comes to the fucking rim at full, head of steam. That hasn't even happened in this series yet. And Maxi's just getting fucking stuffed every time going to the rim. He has nothing. He has nothing he can offer as a threat against the fucking length of Boston, the just the girth they have down in the paint. He's got nothing he can give you. And the 3-pointer just hasn't been on really to that effect in this series. He's hit a couple of open ones, but off the dribble, nothing. I'm not even going to go into James Harden, dude. He fucking stinks, dude. I hope that motherfucker goes to Houston. I really do. Turn out a player option and just go to Houston. I would be shocked if he gave us like a sign and trade option. For one, I don't know how Houston could match it with anything of value in a sign and trade option. It have to be so pick laden that I don't even know if they have that many picks because of how many trades they've done and all that shit. But that's something I could see that you get anything out of it is that he chooses to be nice and gives you a sign and trade. But honestly, I think you get something out of it by just him walking away. If you can just open up $30 million, I think you can say two different things. Load it up with a bunch of fucking energy wing guys, which we have no wing guys, really. I mean, like, the 3 to 4 defenders is still a problem to this day, that you just don't have that many 3 or 4 defenders. We didn't really have them if you took Ben out the equation a couple years back, and we don't really have him now. You have PJ, who gets him the de facto best wing option on the team, but he's old. And then you have Tobias, who is not that good at that. You have Reed, but Reed is the backup 5 now, so you really can't put Reed on that. He fouls so often. Vanderbilt doesn't do anything offensively. So it's like, if you could have got the other Vanderbilt, like, the other Vanderbilt seems to defend pretty much anybody. If you could have got that Vanderbilt instead of this one, that's fine. But they just need like a decent 3-and-D, dude. Like, I don't know if that needs to be your whole $30 million or like $15 million. OG makes sense, but like OG sometimes kind of that's when OJ needs to be doing. But OJ, I can't believe I can't say the nigga's name. OG makes sense. That's like, I don't know what his bag is worth at this point. I could see OG getting 20, 25 at this point, honestly. But like, if you could get OG to like say, I'll just give you 15. I don't know if OG's even a free agent at this point, but if you could get OG, that'd be nice. My dream off season, which is coming up in 3 games or so, I would say you just let Harden walk. Even encourage him to walk. I know that if he leaves, you left, I think 2 first leave with them, and then you also lost Seth, who is a free agent as well, by the way. You could get Seth with some of that $30 million. And then you lost the Ben asset. Ben, the worst thing about the Ben asset is that the Ben asset could have got you long-term pieces, but this motherfucker was so beholden, and you know who I'm talking about, was so beholden to the antiquated idea of a superstar, which I don't think Joel necessarily needed a superstar. I think he needed a better second option than Ben Simmons, but I don't think he necessarily needed a superstar. I don't necessarily think that's what he needed because of what Ben or Joel is. Like, you do need another running mate, right? But I don't think they necessarily need a fucking like tier 1 Hall of Fame type of guy. Like, Jokic is going to war with this quintet, now triplet of relatively big names, while having Jamal Murray as his nominally second best option. I don't think Jamal Murray's a superstar. I think he's a star. Um, you also have Aaron Gordon, who's like a supersized like version of the Tobias Harris type piece, and then Michael Porter Jr. can be a fucking flamethrower occasionally. Okay, but like I don't think you necessarily needed like the bona fide Hall of Fame type of guy with Joel. The package that weighed on me and still weighs on me to this day was the Tyrese Barnes Hield some picks type of trade. And I always thought that was such a good ass trade because that trade gives you a guy who even at the moment seemed like a potential top 5 point guard for the next 10 years. Like potential. Like now it's kind of more realized, but at that time potential. It gives you a just knockdown dead eye shooter, which before Melton, I mean, they really just didn't have that at the guard position. And then you get Barnes, who on paper like is a 3-and-D type of wing. I don't love Barnes, but like Barnes can have value for a team. Like Barnes had values for the Kings, but like how much value I'm not sure when it came to playing Golden State. And you get first out of it, or not. You probably get at least 2 firsts, I would say, out of it. That to me was like a package that like gave Philly like some now improvement, but also like some long-term improvement. Because you can probably flip Hill and Barnes again and maybe attach a pick to them to improve something, right? Like, I never understood the resiliency of Morey against like the marginally improved now, but definitely improved down the road type of roadmap. It just, he had this fucking hard on for you need a superstar. He tried to do everything for Dame at one point, and that flamed through. But like Dame, whatever he was going to do with that was going to pretty much be a straight up like swap. Like you were not going to get like some real talent back with Dame. And the problem with that is that like just with Harden is that the team itself was so fucking defensively when you took Ben out the equation that it's like you needed something back with whoever you got. So Dame, undersized guard that can't play defense and was getting old at that point, didn't make sense to me. And Harden, while he does amplify these kind of hapless at times ancillary role pieces, he fucking sucks. So it's like, in the playoffs at least. So it's like, and he fucking sucks in defense too. So it's like, it's kind of hindsightish, but like it's also like this is how I felt at the time. Like, I was happy that they got something back for Ben because Ben was such an albatross of nothing. That, like if you improved nothing, maybe you get some out of the season. But like I was under the impression you got to get some out of Tobias at some point because like I mean something like a trade because like you couldn't just have Tobias, Harden, Matt, C, Joel, and insert other motherfucker here and expect to really contend for a championship because that just wasn't going to be better than anybody from, the ECF, WCF type like caliber teams. Like you run that up against Golden State, you're getting your ass kicked because James is going to do what James does against Golden State and do nothing, and then Maxi's going to just probably get twerked on by fucking whoever. I think Joel does a good job against Draymond as much as most centers do, but like all I would say is you just wear down Joel with Draymond and Looney, and then you just fucking rip the shut of Tobias Harris until he becomes a passive nothing. And then you just have, Wiggins eliminate Harden. And then, shit, that's like a 4-1, 4-2 type of fucking series. And then, even like you think Luka last year, like, they just probably 5 out and just fuck the shit out of the Sixers that way. And then you think about the ECF teams, like, that Heat team was a 1 seed, dude. I mean, I know, like, the version that we got in that Celtics series was, like, not the caliber of a 1 seed. Like, that was a 1 seed team. That Heat team probably they actually did beat the shot the Sixers. I forgot. I got it in my head, but Joel got hurt before that series. Or I think maybe the first game of that series, but, like, That's the Master Well. I just remember that the Master Well. That Heat team was better than the Sixers team, and then the Celtics would have beat the fucking dog shit out of like the fucking Heat or the Sixers. It's just no credible roadmap, even with like the around the margins improvement that he made this season. There's no credible roadmap for like running this back and then winning. You can say I'm a flip Tobias, but I'm not sure why you couldn't flip Tobias the past 2 seasons. The problem is that there's just nothing that Morey wants, I think, in terms of trading Tobias. Like he wants to come out of that winning in the trade, and that's not going to happen. The Tobias trade, I don't know how many years he has left. It has to be 2 at this point, I would guess 2 at most. That has to be a 75 cents on the dollar trade. And Morey has like some insistence on not allowing that. Morey is the type of GM that does not want to lose a trade. And that type of rationale is why you still have Tobias. He does not want to lose a trade. That's just not something he wants to do. And God damn it, you have to lose that trade. And you need to lose that trade. Or you need to flip that onto something that is either long-term better or has some higher ceiling. Tobias has no ceiling. He's a fucking 2-dimensional fucking line. He's a side scroller. He's a side scroller. He's like a fucking Mario, like Super Mario game. The ceiling is like very rigid. It's defined, it's programmatically fucking defined to be kind of low because you don't have that many pixels to work with. He's a fucking 2D 80s game. That's Tobias. And unfortunately, you need a 3 fucking Super Mario World type of fucking guy at that wing position. One of those wing positions. You just need one of them to be like dynamic. You cannot be a real playoff contender in 2023 and not have any kind of dynamic, no kind of dynamicism amongst the wings. Harden is dynamic once every 4 games. He's not a wing in this system. PJ Tucker literally had no shots in the fucking game. And here's what's worse. In this game, you got something out of him, and you fucking still got your ass kicked by 10 or 12, I think. If you get a good PJ game, a good, relatively good Joel game, and you still lose by 10, what are you at home when you get the MVP award out? What the fuck are you going to do? That's it. That's 37 minutes. A roundabout way of saying there is nothing they can do except get some out of Harden and Maxey. That's it. There's nothing else they can do. There's no other buttons you can press that are realistic. You just got to get something out of those two. And if you don't, you lose the next game. You get your ass kicked in Boston for game 5, and then you go home. That's it. That's all that can happen. There's nothing else that can possibly happen. You either get some of those two or you just don't, and you lose. And then Joel goes to the fucking... I'll bet you anything you want. If you're still listening to this at this point, I bet you anything that if Joel gets one forward, he is not playing in Philadelphia next season. I will bet anything on that. I don't care about MVP. I don't care about that shit. 1-4, he's not playing in this team again next season.